Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press, and thank you for coming here. I would like to begin by wishing you a happy Rosh Hashanah. I believe you know what is that, which is the Jewish New Year today. So, and extend you all good wishes for our Hindu friends in their festival of Navratri. I would like to respond to issues raised this week in the media regarding a letter written by the Secretary for Christian Citizenship and Social Services, Reverend Iliesa Naivalu, to Divisional Superintendents and Ministers on resolution passed in the 2014 annual conference. I must admit that until this matter was highlighted in the news, I was unaware of the letter or its contents. I have read the letter anyway and wish to make the following clarification points. One is that the roles of the Department of Citizenship, Christian Citizenship and Social Services is to help our members to be aware of current issues affecting our society and the Church's theological and the practical reflection on them. This has been the practice of the Methodist Church since its establishment. The issue raised in the letter are based on resolutions passed by the 2014 conference, in which more than 1,000 clergies and lay members representing the 56 divisions of the Church deliberated and voted on. The aim of the letter for the attention of the Divisional Superintendent and Ministers was to give a background on the resolutions to show that these issues are not new and have been part of the Methodist Church's social policy for some time. It was to place these resolutions in its proper context. For the sake of transparency, I have asked the Secretary for Communication to circulate this letter in its original Itoke language and with an English translation to you. I don't know whether you have received it or not, but it's there. So with the election fast approaching, we wanted to ensure that our members were aware of the conference resolutions and reflected on them before they make up their own mind on who to vote for. As you will see, while there are references to past and present government's work and policies, there is no mention of any particular political party in the letter. My understanding of the situation is that Reverend Naivalu's effort were well intended. The language and the tone of the letter is not adversarial, as in a political campaign, but it was theological. However, this case, and again I thank you, all of you, for bringing this to our attention, has shown us in the Church Connectional Office there is a gap in our process of communication. As part of our downsizing, the department has been without an assistant secretary for some years now to help in the framing of such socially pastoral letters. As you know, our communication department was only revived last year, and as such, departments are not used to having their communications vetted for language and context, etc. They have followed a process for more than 20 years and for direct communication with our ministers and members. And that's one of the things that happened here. We acknowledge that this gap in our process of disseminating any information needs to be resolved, and the Secretary for Communication, Padre James, will be putting in place an internal communication policy for our Secretariat, as we are now in a new era of public communication. I would now like to address the issue of the Interfaith Thanksgiving Service for the release of the Golan Heights 45. I'm sure many of you would know that on the day which this news of capture of the 45 Golan was publicized, the entire Methodist conference that was in August 29th stopped its proceeding to pray for the safety of our peacekeepers and their release for peace and strength for their families and comrades in peacekeeping duties around the world and within the RFMF. As you are aware, the Methodist Church coordinated an ecumenical prayer vigil for the Golan 45, which was attended by family and friends of the captured peacekeepers and members of different faith communities and societies at large, including some political parties. Along with other faiths community, we ask that we will continue the prayer for Golan 45 in their families, and instructed our ministers to provide support, pastoral support for families and friends who are not easily accessible to the military pastoral team. On hearing the release of our peacekeepers, the Methodist Church declared Sunday 14th of September as a day of thanksgiving for all its churches, and call for special prayers of thanksgiving to be said by the 339 circuits around the country. Following the invitation for the Methodist Church to participate in the prayer that was invited or organized by Prime Minister's office, the church responded a day before the service. We responded respectfully declining the invitation. This was done to give the Prime Minister's office enough time to find another representative from a Christian community for the service. In declining the invitation, the church felt that it had done its part in bringing the nation together and leading the prayer vigil for the safe return of our peacekeepers. We have concluded this by declaring Sunday 14th 9 as a Thanksgiving service for all churches. Furthermore, with the election being held the following day, the church was concerned with the timing of that service, because the event, as it may be misconstrued as a political event. That particular point, I want to say that that was following on from the stand that we took on from 2009 when we were right opposite what government was trying to do then, the military government then. So we wanted to pursue that line to be apolitical. And our not taking part in that was that it was too close to election, and also we were informed by the Electoral Commission that from Monday 7 o'clock in the morning to Wednesday, election day, there was to be a lull period, no political campaign, all the banners were to come down, and I think you were aware of that. And for a service of this type to be held on the eve of election, we saw it as coming from a political side. So we thought we would we will not take part in that. We would have preferred, and this we mentioned to the commander of the RFMF and the chaplain, and even to the Prime Minister himself. We would have preferred that this service will be held after the election, especially as the UN-sanctioned International Day of Peace fell on Sunday, 21st September 2014. You may remember that that was also the day when we called for other denominations to come to Centenary Church for the International Day of Peace. The Methodist Church was represented, of course, as it has been in earlier services, involving the Republic of Fiji military forces by its chaplain, the chaplain that we provided for the RFMF. As long as there have been need for chaplains to spiritually care for our disciplined forces, the Methodist Church has provided them as part of its pastoral care and work. The chaplains, whether they serve in appointments in the military or in the police, in hospital, in the correctional services, and in the schools, they are ordained ministers of the Methodist Church first and foremost. So they are our representative there. They represent the Methodist Church as they reflect the body of Christ in their appointed post. The same can be said of the ministers who serve voluntary chaplains for the local rugby teams and union and rugby league. On the issue of interfaith worship, one of the key strategic areas of the Methodist Church is key strategic area 5. And the heading for that is healing of the nation through strengthening intra-church, inter-church, and inter-religious relationships. Over the past year, the Methodist Church has been working hard to restore the relationship within our community and among Christian communities. And we have, as a community of faith and as our wider Christian community, begun to see the fruit of that collective effort. The Church's Agape Feast, held last month as part of the Golden Jubilee National Celebration, was the beginning of our work to build relationships with wider religious community. As a community of faith, with a right to hold firm to our doctrines and theological perspectives, we are able to share our faith and learn from other faiths on our traditions that uphold the common good. We are able to work in partnership to address common issues of concern. However, we have not yet developed a policy on multi-faith worship in our context. Until we do so, we are being cautious as to so as not to compromise our doctrinal beliefs and tradition for the sake of political expediency or political correctness. We regret that these issues has disturbed our working relationship with the state. I will be writing to the Prime Minister to congratulate him and the Fiji First, and affirm him of our earlier stance that we are willing to work together for the betterment of our beloved Fiji. The Church is beginning her new exodus, our Lakwea Niveau, just as our nation is embracing on a new democracy. We had hoped that the two will go together. Unfortunately, this issue came in between us, but we pray for our nation and government that we will continue to work together and seek your prayers for us in the church and also in the government, that we may continue to work together. Vinawalevu. Yes, that's the Prime Minister's view. It has come from him. I was asking some of my friends, what is he referring to enable him to call some of us liars? What was it? Just want to know what was really the point of his calling us liars, so that we may be able to answer him. Yes, as I said, consent. This has been how the office has worked. You know, they have their issues and they give it out to ministers who are there in the various divisions and circuits. I, for one, and my office was not informed of it. I made the point earlier on, but today I called him, and spoke to him that this thing, for whatever difficulty that we may have come across through it, has also opened our eyes that we have some processing problem that we need to address as a church. How do they go out to the public for public consumption with their statements? So that has been awakened. And as I spelled out, a way of doing that is to ask our communication department to give us a draft of how should that take place, Yeah, the process. Because right now, for over 20 years, they were just allowed to, whatever they want to do, they just send out. But now that we have been caught with this, and without our knowledge, we will do that. He himself, Naivalu, has agreed with that there was that loophole, and that he did not give us any copy until the news came on yesterday morning. Not really. We are saying that we have been talking with people of different faiths. Talking. Worship is another issue for us. We need to talk about that before we go to worship with them. I must make clear, I was deputy chair of Interfaith at one point. I was deputy chair of Interfaith. And we were talking on the differences of our, faiths and all those. But worship is our difficulty, because we have not devised a working process with, worshiping together like that. We need to do that, as I have mentioned in the paper. Yeah, as I was saying, you know, I learned of it yesterday morning when the news went out. And there was no vetting at all from anybody. So that is what we are trying to improve on. We need what goes to know what goes out, you know, in the name of the Methodist Church. But for this one, as you have heard, went out without our knowledge. So we hope to better ourselves.
There was no communication at all with Reverend Naivalu before he issued his letter?
No, I said, you know, it was yesterday when the news came that we were all asking, hey, what is that? Who gave the paper? And all this, eh? We were not aware. And we sort of confronted him, why didn't you do that? And he said that he thought that that was his job, just to give it for information's sake to our church members. Yeah. And therefore he didn't think of bringing it to us. And I've said, you know, there is to be a process, and that is the good thing that we have found out through all these difficulties. Yeah, I have spoken with him. Our standing committee is tomorrow. Maybe some of the members will bring this up. I don't know. But taking him in to task for whatever reason, that is not part of what we are planning. We just want to right the wrongs, you know, in terms of process. That is what we want to do.
Just to clarify your question earlier about the interfaith, there was a representative from the Methodist Church present at the Interfaith Service, both for the national service, that was the military chaplain, and there was also a Methodist minister present in the Interfaith Service for Fiji First. So there was a Methodist minister there. Our church is represented. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
No,
If you need anything, give me a call.